Stefania, nice and early. How does it sound? What, this one? What do you mean? This is perfect. It's going right now. I'm gonna start my 3 minutes. Perfect. Thank you, sir. All right, we're starting like 2 minutes. How does it sound? Does it still sound good? You can't hear my TV, right? All right. So today we're doing a custom Reunculus. Do green screen, green buttons, clear green. I'm gonna try it with the clear green first, but I might switch them to clear because I'm also doing button LEDs. So we'll see how it looks with the green first. If not, I'll switch it to the clear. And clear green pads, which I might also switch these to clear. Clear, we got new capacitors, new speaker, and a power regulator. After we're done with that, I made up these custom labels. One for the back and then one for the cartridge. Nice clear green cartridge, 2000 games preloaded. So that's the idea. This is the game board we're using today. Broken screen. I haven't tested it to see if it turns on. We'll check that now. Turns on, we got power, we got sound. It's a good sign. So let's get into it. Tri-wing screwdriver to take out the 6 screws holding the back. Surprisingly, looks really good, really clean. Then we'll use the Phillips head to take out the 3, holding the board to the front shell. Lifting up the 2 clamps that hold in the ribbon cable. Yeah, this board is extremely clean. All right, let's get into it. Start with cleaning first. I'm using a soft bristle toothbrush and 99% isopropyl alcohol. Just gonna go over the board. All right, nice little surface layer cleaning. I'll get some Q-tips and we'll start cleaning some of the problem areas. So for the volume switch, I like to get the isopropyl alcohol in there and then you spin it about, I would say 10 to 20 times. It's usually enough to clean it on the inside. All right. Check inside the link port. Surprisingly clean, not rusted. This is a microfiber pen. This is good for cleaning, but it could also damage the board if you're too rough with it. So what I'll do is I'll lightly go over the directional pads, nice and gently over the A and B. Start and select. And if at any point you guys have any questions on why I do a certain thing, just let me know. I have the chat pulled up on my iPad. So the microfiber pen usually leaves some microfiber residue behind. So what I'll do is I'll go over it again with the Q-tip. And then one thing I like to do is I test to see if the pads are working. So what we'll do is we'll test to the vias to make sure that there's continuity. So that's good. 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 It's all good. All right. So from here, what I'll do is I'm going to trim down the cartridge pins. So the reason I do this is because when you add the IPS screen, there's a chance for this to hit the cartridge pins, which could cause a short in the screen. So normally you would still wrap this with tape, but I like to trim them down, and then I put a layer of Kapton tape over it. Because if any of these pins basically touch this, it shorts out the board. So I'm just going to trim these down. If anyone at home is attempting to do this on their own, I would recommend safety glasses for this part because the pins go flying everywhere. It's very easy to hit your eye. All right, those are all trimmed down. What I then do is clean inside of the headphone jack. So I'll take a Q-tip, trim off the head of it, and then just go inside the port like this. And then the battery contacts will clean up with the microfiber, with the fiberglass pen. I think I said microfiber before, but this is a fiberglass pen. Just cleaning off that 25-year-old gunk. to make sure there's a nice stable connection between the contacts and the battery. Sometimes I'll replace these if they're rusted, but these are in great condition. They just need a good cleaning. But if there was even a little rust, I would replace it. All right, that should be good. One thing I also like to do, this one probably doesn't need it, but I'll take a little bit of sandpaper and gently rub in between the cartridge pins. Just very gently. You don't want to Daniel, which Game Boy was it? Which Game Boy did I make for you? What color was it? All right, that's all good. Now we're going to get into the soldering part of it. All right, so first things first, you want to clean the power switch. So I'm adding some soldering flux paste. And then I'll use some low melt solder on both ends. Then from there, you get a craft knife and you just get it in between the shield and the plastic. I should have probably put a new blade on before I did this. Oh, there we go. Heating up one side, lifting gently. Try not to rip the pad off the board. Using a tweezer to pull off the other side. There we go. And then, as you can see, the power switch is extremely dirty. So even though the Game Boy looks clean, inside the power switch, it's nice and dirty. That causes power issues. If your Game Boy's not turning on, chances are the power switch is just dirty. So I'm going to use some solder wick to clean up the old solder. Then from here, we'll clean the power switch. So some isopropyl alcohol on a Q-tip. You could kind of see already, it kind of starts to clean it up. Pretty nice. But then I take the fiberglass pen. You'll see it makes it nice and brand new, basically. Nice and sparkly. There it is. Clean up the fiberglass residue. Then I'll also clean up these 4 pins on the power switch itself. Nice and clean. We'll dunk it in some alcohol to clean it up a little bit more, and then we'll solder it back into place. So now I'm just soldering the shield back onto the board, adding a little bit of pressure to bend it back into shape. Looks like it's all lined up nice. Power switch still moves good. I'll just add a little bit of solder to the power switch points. Now from here, I usually like to test that it's working. Power's on. So we'll get the alligator clips, whatever they call them. Red on positive, black on negative. There it is. It turns on. And we can move on to the next part. I tried not to smudge the ink with the serial number, but now that I smudged it a little bit, I'm just going to remove all of it. There we go. Quickly, I'm just going to test that the board works. Something you should do before you get too deep into it. Because if you remove this tab, then there's no refund. So you want to just make sure it works. Sometimes screens come defective. A lot of their time they're getting shipped all the way from China. So what I'm doing here is I'm connecting the screen to the power, which is labeled C on the board. And it looks like I bridged it on accident. So what I'm going to do is take some flux, put it right where I bridge, and it should separate on its own. Oop. It's been a while since I've done this with a camera in my face, so I might be a little rusty. All right, so what I'm going to do is clean up the solder because I'm making a mess. There we go. No longer bridged. There we go. Time to test it. All right, screen turns on. Looks like it's working great. Touch sensor is working great. It is a good screen. right, so next, probably going to do the capacitors. We'll replace all 3 capacitors. Capacitors typically go bad after 20 to 30 years. So if the Game Boy Color was made in 1998, we're like right in the middle of its expiration. So if you're experiencing power issues after cleaning the power switch, or you get no sound to your Game Boy, chances are the capacitors went bad. So these two over here, the smaller ones, are directly tied into the audio line. And this one typically deals with the power. So if it's a power issue, it's probably this one. If it's an audio issue, it's probably one of these two. So I'm adding some flux, some low melt solder. Now there's different ways to remove the capacitor, but this is the quickest way in my opinion, but it's also probably the easiest way to damage the board. So I'm just cutting it right above the base. I'm going to cut it right in half, put my hand over it so it doesn't go flying. And then from there, I'm just going to carefully remove the plastic by cracking it in half. Cool, that's good. Same thing over here. When you're breaking it off, you kind of want to do the same angle that the legs are facing. So for this one, it's this way. For these, it's this way. If you were to crack it like right in half, chances are you're going to rip the pads right off the board. So always along the way that the legs are facing. And from my experience, this one's the easiest one to rip the pads off because it's so tiny. So be extra gentle with this one. From Bali, what's up, man? Jono, welcome in, man. All right, so from here, I'm going to clean up the legs. So if you can see on the board, the legs are still on the board. So that's all that's left. We took off all the plastic. So what I'm going to do is just take the legs off with the soldering iron, and I will put them in a napkin. capacitors leak like a nasty smelling liquid from them, so that's why I wear gloves. You don't want to really touch that stuff. All right, so from here, we're going to clean up all the old solder. Soldering iron, solder wick. And you kind of want to just let the wick absorb it. You don't want to rub it against the pads because then you can damage the pads. So just letting it soak it up. Let it get hot enough, it'll soak it up. Soaking up all that old solder. All right. Now I'll go over it with isopropyl alcohol, clean it up a little bit. There we go. And then from there, we'll pre-tin the points. So I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on each pad. All right. Then we pre-tin the capacitors before we put them on. All right, so we're going to add a little bit of solder to the legs. So from here, we'll add it to the board. For a capacitor, the black line right here indicates the negative side. And then usually the bigger silver side is the positive side. So we got negative, positive, and then if you look at the board, you got negative on the right side, positive on the left side for this one. So what we'll do is the capacitor goes in upside down to match the negative to the negative and the positive to the positive. What I'm going to do is I heat up one side till it's all melted, and then you just gently slide one of the legs into place. From there, I'll heat up the other side and then push it into place, push it down. And just to ensure the connection's good, I will add a little bit of extra solder. And just give it a nice little push, nothing too hard. A little bit of solder, and then push down. Now for this side, we see the positives on this side, on the bottom side, and then the negatives on the top side. So black being negative, the gray side being positive. I'm going to heat up the pad and gently slide it in to place. Heat up this pad, and then I'm going to push it into place, push it down into place. Add a little bit of solder to ensure the connection. There it is. And then the same thing for the tiny one. Negative sides on the top, positives on the bottom. Heat it up. Gently slide it in. Heat up the pad. Push it into position. So from here, we'll just test that there is sound and power. To just make sure that the capacitors are good. There we go. And it even sounds better now. So I'm going to put the mic right to it. Sounds much louder than it was before, because now we have fresh capacitors. So even before we put a new speaker, the sound is improved from a capacitor replacement. All right. I think I forgot to mention before, but we're also going to add a green power LED instead of the red one. So that's pretty easy. We'll just do that real quick. What I'm doing is adding solder. I'm going to grab from the front of the LED, and then I'm just going to heat up the two pads without trying to hit any of the other components in the surrounding area. And just pulling out gently. Boom. Just like that, the power LED's out. We'll clean up the old solder. Just being very careful not to hit the other components in the area. And then I will use the solder sucker to get the solder out of the via point. And a good thing to do after you just apply any solder anywhere or remove something is to just clean it isopropyl. So always cleaning up in between steps. When will I be on again? Oh, I think he left already. All right, so for this, we'll test that the LED works. The longer side is typically the positive side. So just test that the LED's working. There it is. The shorter leg is the negative side. Longer leg is the positive side. So what I'll do is I trim this down, but remembering which one is the positive, because I want to leave that one longer. So positive, negative. If you look at the board here, this symbol indicates the negative side. So I know I have to put the shorter leg in through this via. So negative, shorter leg goes into that. And the reason, I mean, you don't have to keep them longer and shorter, but it's just a good indicator. So if I was to like drop this, and then I'll still know which one's the positive, that one's still the negative. But if you make them the same size, you drop the LED on accident, then it becomes a guessing game. So there it is. It's in. Looks good. It looks flush. We'll come to the back now and we'll add some solder. All right, so at this point, we should have a green power LED, but there is one more step. I did make a YouTube video about this about 2 years ago. So it's nice and green. But when you start to add additional mods to it, the green light or whatever color power LED light you put in doesn't come off as strong because it's pulling a lot of power and putting it other places. So what is this? This is C9. So what I'm going to do is the top of C9, I'm going to connect to the negative leg. So I'm just going to bridge a nice little gap from the top of C9 here all the way up to the negative leg. And that just basically makes the LED brighter. And if you're someone who's getting into modding and you're wondering why your LED light's so dim, I did make a video on this. So it might be hard to see on the live, but I have bridged the top of C9 to the negative leg. And that'll just make the LED brighter. Oh, I gotta get a new pair of alligator clips. This thing is cooked. So I'll just fix this real quick. There it is, back up and running. As you see, nice and bright green LED. All right, so next, I think this is kind of getting in the way of the speaker, so I'm gonna remove this and then we'll do the power regulator next. And then we'll add the speaker last. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of solder and flux to the speaker. Speaker points, add a little bit of solder, and then you can just pull it right off the board. And since we're here, I'll just clean it up. Some solder wick, absorbing all that old solder. And then we'll just use the solder sucker to clean up the remaining solder. There we go. Clean it up as we go. All right, so I think next the power regulator. So you could either do this with a, let's see. The idea is we're going to pull this power regulator, the old power regulator out, and we're going to put in a new one. This is the Clean Power GBC. I'm not sure if they make this one anymore, but any power regulator works. It's basically cleans up the power whenever adding additional mods. So when you do an IPS screen plus button LEDs, I would always recommend a regulator. It draws too much power to the original one, so you kind of want to always add a power regulator. So that's going to go right here after I remove the old one. So to remove the old one, some flux, some low melt solder, low melt solder, and now I'm going to clean up all this solder. The low melt solder just helps wake up the old solder, basically. Makes it easier to absorb, makes it easier to melt. So I do like these solder suckers, but they get clogged up pretty easily. So we'll just clean this up real quick. Part is probably easier using a heat gun because you could just heat up all the points at once and kind of slip it out, but honestly I just like using the solder iron. I feel like it's a process to get the heat gun going. Not everyone has a heat gun. So I'm just cleaning up all the old solder so we could pull this old power regulator out. Add a little bit more flux. All right, so this part's a little hard. What I'll do is I grab it with my pliers. I'll heat up one side, try and slip it out. Heating up all 3 pins and trying to gently pull it out. Try the other side evenly. There we go. All right, this side's out. So even though I cleaned up as much solder as possible, there is still solder, so you want to heat it up. You don't want to just pull it out at this point. You want to kind of ease its way out. So I'm heating up all the points equally, and then it should just drop out on its own. There we go. If you pull or tear it, there's a chance that you could pull the pads right off of the board. I've done it before many times. So there it is, power regulator is out. I'll save this. Still works perfect, so I'll just put this off to the side. We'll save that for another project. And we'll clean up all the old solder. Because we made a mess. Let's clean all this up. All right, so now we add the new power regulator. What I'll do is Add a little solder to the top left corner. Line them up with the pins. We'll heat up the top left corner. That'll be like our anchor point. Make sure everything's aligned. I can push it up a little bit. So I'll heat it back up, push it up into place to make sure it's nice and flush. Looks pretty good to me. And then we just solder in the other 5 points, 6 points. All right, so trying to make it look cleaner, I accidentally bridged the 2 points right here. So we'll try with a little bit of flux. And then if not, we'll just remove the solder and resolder it. Yeah, it's not separating. So what we'll do is we'll just remove it. All right, no longer bridge, but we do need to add solder again. There we go. When I say bridge, it's like 2 points that aren't supposed to be connected to each other are soldered together. And that's what like a bridge calls it, like a bridge. So like these are all supposed to be in their own points, but if this is bridged to that, or any of these points are bridged together, it's not going to work properly. It could lead to short circuits. It could damage the board. So you never want to bridge components. Bridges can sometimes be temporary fixes for certain scenarios, like fuses, but it's never a guaranteed fix, and it could damage the board. So you never want to bridge. Let's see if I can show you guys this. Yeah, so no bridges. I don't know if you guys can see that good. No bridges there. No bridges there. Also looks pretty clean if you ask me. All right, so power regulators in. We'll just test power again. It's always good to test after each new thing that you do, because then you could just trace back to, because sometimes I'll just build right through and then there's an issue at the end and it's like I don't know where my issue was. So if it didn't power on now for some reason, I would know it was the last thing I did, which was adding the power regulator. And it looks like it's working great. Nice green power LED. And I think before we add the speaker, we'll do the button LEDs first. All right, so basically what I do is I'll line it up with the board first. And then there are, how many points? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points that need to be soldered to the board to get the button LEDs board to work. You got the A button, the B button, the start and select button, and then you get the ground up here. And then this one is the 5 volts, I want to say. It's what gives power to the board. So now that I know where everything lines up, I will pre-tin the points. Just a little bit of solder, nothing crazy. All right, now that we're pre-tinned, we can line up the board. All right, that looks pretty straight to me. So what I would recommend for this point, so normally I just go right into soldering it, but if you want to make sure it stays straight when you're soldering, just add a little bit of tape. So we'll just do it proper. So we'll line it up again, make sure it stays. All right, that looks good. I'll just go ahead and tape it down. So it doesn't move when I solder it. You guys think you're going to be able to do this after the stream? You think if I sent you all custom Game Boy parts, you guys could put this together? lined up. So I'm just going to solder these into place. As I solder, I'm just pressing down. I'm going to hold for a little bit for it to dry. Press it in, hold down the board, let it dry. All right, there we go. So the AV start and select button should be all soldered in good. We'll do the ground next. And then the power. All right, so I'll remove the tape. And then there's a wire we just need to add for the funny playing board to give it power. So this is the point that gives it power right up here. SW1 VCC. And then we connect that to VIN right here. All right, so if I did everything right, the button LED should turn on now. So let's give it a try. And there they are. So if you grab these, we could test. I mean, it's better to test when it's assembled, but just seeing if, there we go. Yeah. So at least I know the A and the B button work. Nice little pretty light show. All right. So what we'll do next is, like I said, I like to do the speaker last because the speaker just gets in the way of everything. So what I'll do is I like to put Kapton tape on the board to just prevent any shorts or anything weird from happening. So we'll just prep some tape. Michael can probably do it. That's right, you guys have a soldering iron. Really exciting stuff right now. Just adding some tape. I had thicker tape, I just don't know where it went. So normally I'd wait to do this part because there is a point that you need to connect the start and the select to the board here. But this button LED board actually leaves a nice little section for the select and start to be soldered directly to this. So normally the start button is connected to this little dot right here, and then the select button will be connected to this dot. but this board takes the start and the select and runs a point up to right here. So I could just connect the start and select to these points instead of right here. If I wasn't adding button LEDs, I would have to connect it here. Or if the button LED board didn't have this, but this is the newest one, so they've come a long way. All right, just a couple more pieces of tape. Once we get the speaker in, the board will be completely prepped and ready. There we go. So now we'll just add the speaker, and then we can start prepping the board. Not the board, the shell. All right, speaker's in. Let's test it, make sure I did it right. There it is, looks good. Board is completely prepped. So the only thing that I'm noticing is I'm hearing a little bit of it's like a noise, like a high pitched squeal from the speakers. And usually that happens when you put in the button LED board or a speaker amp. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch out this capacitor for a different one. It's a bigger one and it reduces the noise of the audio feedback. We'll see if that does the job. I mean, most people probably wouldn't notice or it wouldn't be too much of a big deal, but we strive for perfection over here. So I do want to reuse this capacitor, so I'm going to try and lift it up instead of just cracking it in half. There we go. Save the capacitor for another day. We'll pre-tin this capacitor. Matching the negative to the negative, positive to the positive. We'll heat up one side, slide it in. All right, let's see if that fixed our audio feedback issue. I mean, it's a little bit better, but I still hear it, so it's going to bother me a little bit. Definitely made it lower, but I still hear a little bit of it. I'm just cleaning up some points. Normally when I film a YouTube video, I try and keep the mat as clean as possible. So it's like, looks good for presentation, but this is kind of the reality of how my workstation becomes after every build, just a mess like this. And then I have to clean it up after the fact. But it does become chaotic. There's wrappers everywhere, screws and nuts and bolts and capacitors. All right. I'm going to try one more thing to clean up the sound, and then we're just going to move on. It's really not that bad at all, but I hear it. All right. I don't think that's going to fix the noise, but we'll give it a try. I mean, it's really not that bad. Let's try with the game in. I think it sounds fine. All right, so let's move on to the shell. So this is good. All right, moving on to the shell. Motherboard is fully prepped. So what we got is a custom UV printed Ryunculus shell. basically the person told me that they wanted Ryunculus. I think that's how you say its name. So it's Solosis. Then its second form is like Duosis or something like that. Duosian? I don't know. Very weird Pokemon line, but I think the shell came out really cool. And we did the clear because the whole idea is that it's a clear Pokemon. Nice little custom battery job as well. All right, so I like to start off by, they come with this already pre-installed on the back, the shield, the cartridge shield. But I had a time where it was too tight and it ended up cracking one of my custom shells. So now I always loosen them, tighten them, and then loosen them again. Because it ended up cracking a $50 shell. That wasn't cool. All right, the back is good. So now for the screen, we'll get the screen that we tested earlier. We tested it, made sure it worked first before we go ahead and pull off all the stickers. Because once you remove this sticker, there's no refund. You cannot return it. If the sticker's still on and you could prove that it's broken, they'll refund you. So I'm going to carefully remove this without ripping the whole back off. Boom. And if you could read it, it says void. So once that's voided, no refund. Which is fine because we tested it. But I will keep the plastic on for a second. I'm going to add a little bit of tape. I should start pre-cutting tape before streams. So time consuming. So what do we got? We got 3 people in the chat right now. So what is that? Michael, Stefania, and Jenny. What do you guys think? You think I should do more of these? I think I plan on doing one more Game Boy tonight, but I'll probably do it off stream so that I could do it quicker. But I do plan on streaming more. I don't think I'm going to stream the vendor events anymore, but I will stream this. And I think I'll just get a separate camera for the vendor events. And then I'll just make clips if anything interesting happens. Yeah, no more live vendor events. I need my phone for that. So basically what I'm doing is just insulating the board so that there's no short circuits. There we go. Now we're going to put the screen into the shell. So I'll remove the front. I'll remove the two tabs on the side. And then we're going to gently fit this into the shell. And now this is the part right here where you could easily crack the crack the screen if you push too hard or force it. So lightly applying pressure to the side so that the adhesive stays. And it's starting to come together. It's starting to look like a Game Boy now. We'll connect the IPS screen now to the board. See, I feel like a lot of people can do, when they think of the modding or they get into modding, you know, this is the easy part in my opinion, putting this part together. But it's all that prep work that I did. I don't know how long we've been streaming for. You know, it's probably been like 45 minutes, an hour, I don't know. All that prep work I put in leading up to this point that I think really makes the Game Boy. But a lot of people, they just take a motherboard and they just start right at this step. They're just putting the screen into a shell, they connect it, they close up the Game Boy, and they start selling them for premium pricing. But, you know, I just spent an hour of prep work. I think like that really makes the Game Boy what it is. So right here, we're connecting power to the IPS screen. And before we move on, I'm just going to test to make sure the screen is still good. Make sure I didn't accidentally crack it. Looks great to me. As you can see, the board's coming together. I'm going to put the buttons in next. Actually, I'll probably connect the start select button, but it is starting to come together. That looks really cool. All right, so I'll put this back on the screen to protect the screen from scratches and dust for now. All right, and we're going to connect the start and the select. I was thinking about in-person stuff. That'd be pretty cool. Me and Jenny were talking about it. I can offer a workshop and everyone just builds their own Game Boy. If I could get like a class of 5 people, that would make it worth it. Because I see them doing it for the original Game Boys, but I would want to do it for like colors. Like a Game Boy Color workshop. 2-hour event or something. I just feel like it would be expensive though. These screens are not cheap. The motherboards are getting more expensive. All right, start and selector connected. All right, so here we go. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna add the buttons. And like I said at the beginning, there's a world where I just put in clear buttons, but we're gonna see how it looks first with the green buttons. Yeah, I guess I could put out a feeler, see if people would be interested in making their own Game Boys. I was thinking about like offering like a Zoom or something. Just like build together on stream or Zoom call. if you just joined us, we're kind of nearing the end, but I'm going to be looking to be doing more stuff like this, more streams, more live builds. You know, ask me any things while we build. Because I need to build a lot more Game Boys, so I think I might as well just stream them. This part isn't 100% necessary because I already insulated the board, but I'm just doubling up. Safe than sorry. All right, cool. All right, where did I put the screws? Here we go. All right, so the 3 smaller screws are what holds the board to the front shell. When putting screws into fresh plastic, you kind of want to do like 2 turns in, 2 turns out, 3 turns in, 2 turns out, 3 turns back in. Because if you do it all in one shot, you're going to strip the plastic. And if I destroy the front shell, that's basically $50 down the drain, because these things are not cheap to put together. The board will be usable, but the front shell will be destroyed if you strip any of these posts. So I'm doing 3 in, 2 out, 3 in, 2 out. It's basically coursing the plastic so that it doesn't break as you twist it in. And you never want to tighten it too much either. Do it all the way to the max, and then you do like 1 half turn back. So there it is, it's coming together. What we're going to do is the touch sensor at the top gets applied to the top of the board, the top of the shell. So remove that little adhesive. And you can stick it right to the top of the shell. It's just, I don't like that it's just that thin layer of adhesive. So what I do is Take some Kapton tape. Then we're going to fold it up like this and apply it to the top of the shell. All right, that should be good. I'm thinking I'll do another live stream next week. I haven't decided the day, but I'll put out something a little bit earlier to let you guys know. Actually, I'm not going to go too crazy because it's a clear shell. I don't want people seeing the tape, so I think it's good without the tape. All right, so final steps. We're going to put in the power switch. Add the back shell. All right, for this, I like to do the top left corner first. And same thing like we did before. 3 turns, 2 turns back, 3 turns in, 2 turns back. Then I do the bottom right corner. Then bottom left corner. The right middle. Top right corner. And then last but not least, the middle left. From here, we'll pop in some batteries. Make sure everything's working properly. I don't know, I kind of like the green buttons. What do you guys think? Should I try clear buttons, or do you like the green? All right, so we'll change the, all right, so right off, okay, there we go. It is working. You like the green? I think it's cool. Touch sensor works good. I think it looks good. I don't know, maybe I'll switch it out just to see how it looks later. All right, so that's good. What we'll do now is add one of the custom labels. I always print up multiple just in case I mess up. Let's clean it up a little bit. All right, so we got that. And then I'll remove the label from this. So what I'm doing is adding a little bit of isopropyl alcohol as I'm ripping off the standard label so that it leaves no residue. Because if you just pull it right off, then you end up adding more work cleaning off all the residue after the fact. All right. Do you guys want to see a video on how I make the the labels and stuff. Do you think I should make a video on that? Because those I do separate. But it is a little bit of a process. All right. So this is all I got for you guys tonight. What time is it? 10. I'll probably work a little bit on another Game Boy till about 11 off stream, and then I'll close up the shop. But yeah, it looks like it's working great. Buttons feel good, responsive. Buttons look cool. Button LEDs. Back with the custom labels. What do you think? You think the customer's gonna be happy? This has got to be the best part, testing it out. It's almost like getting paid to play video games. Yeah, it feels great. I think we did a good job. Like I said, I'll probably go back in, see how it looks with the clear buttons. I'll probably do a picture of both and run it past the person I made it for. See what they think. They kind of gave me full creative control, but I do like to get an opinion from the person who's ultimately going to be keeping it. But it sounds great, looks great. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing another one next week, maybe a Game Boy Advance SP. Maybe we'll do a Game Boy Advance SP. There's another Itachi shell that I want to do, Game Boy Color. I want to try and get that one going soon. Yeah, I have a lot of cool shells. Actually, while I have you guys here, let's pick a shell for the next stream. I'm gonna do Game Boy Color. Let's choose a Game Boy Color shell. I'll give you guys like 5 options, and you guys can tell me which one's next. So we got Scissor, got a Suicune, we got Umbreon, we got Link, Majora's Mask, got Lugia. This one I'm definitely going to do another video for. This is Giratina. I had custom printed. I think I'm going to do a separate video for this for YouTube upload. Not sure if I'll stream that one, but I definitely want to make a nice video on this one. We got Snorlax. Love the Giratina. And then this is the Itachi one. I've done this one in the past, but it was I don't know. Maybe I'll keep this one. I really like this one. All right, but out of these 6, which one should we do for the next video? Scissor, Suicune, Majora's Mask Link, Lugia, or Umbreon? Umbreon, okay. I got one Umbreon in the chat. What are we thinking? Umbreon, okay, 2 Umbreons. It looks like we're gonna go with Umbreon then. All right, so we'll do the Umbreon next time. Everyone's favorite. I do already have an Umbreon, so it's this one. The prismatic one. This was a custom. Let's pop some batteries in this. So we could do another Umbreon. Everyone loves Umbreon. Build Snorlax. Okay. Yeah, I've done Snorlax in the past, but he's definitely popular. Yes, this is the Umbreon that I've been bringing to shows. This one's pretty cool. Snorlax, Snorlax, Snorlax. Oh, it looks like Snorlax wins. 3 Snorlaxes from the same person. All right, so Prismatic, Umbreon, or we could do Umbreon next time, or the cool Snorlax. You know what? Why don't I do both? How about next stream I do for Game Boy Color? I think I'm going to do an advanced stream next week. But next Game Boy Color stream, I'll do both of these in one sitting. We'll prep the motherboards at the same time, and then we'll assemble them. And then, yeah, this is what we built today together. Reunculus, Duosian, Solosis, Game Boy Color, button LEDs, power regulator, new capacitors. Then we swapped one of the capacitors to lower the sound feedback. Added a green power LED. Custom sticker label. Custom cartridge label. New speaker, power regulator, new buttons, new pads. Yeah. I'll post some pictures of this on Instagram when it's fully ready. Like I said, I'm going to go back into it, just try it with the clear buttons. I'll run it through some tests, make sure that it's good to send to the customer, and then we'll take it from there. But I think I'm going to end the stream now, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be posting on, I guess, Instagram when I plan on going live next. So just keep an eye out for that. And yeah, have a great night. Thank you for tuning in.